Good day, everyone. It's John Jack Tiani. Hope this finds everybody well. Today, we're going to talk about e-business systems and what led up to the proliferation of conducting commerce, information sharing, knowledge management, and so on the internet today. So, what are e-business systems? E-business systems are those electronic digital processes that enable transmission of business transactions, right? And connect buyers and sellers. Normally, um, before the internet, and for centuries gone by, we had what we call brick and mortar. Um, and brick and mortar are the standard stores, storefronts, warehouses that have been in play in commerce. In today's world, we have e-business systems. We also have what we call .com pure plays. This is a business that does not have a brick and mortar component to it. It's a business that conducts business solely through the web. There's a growing number of bricks and clicks, or what we call click and mortar, a company that uses the internet to sell as an additional channel to an offline business or a brick store or a building, etc. Oftentimes, you'll hear these referred to as multi-channel. The internet is a network. We've talked about that before. Everybody's pretty familiar with what the internet is. And it uses the IP protocol to connect computers around the world. You might have heard two other terms, the intranet, which is literally a private network, sort of a closed-end internet. It's a network operating within an organization that uses the same protocols, but it has security built into it, and maybe specific applications that are only for use by the business that's providing them, and maybe other tools and other sets of information. An extranet is a portion of a company's private intranet that is accessible via the internet to authorized organizations. You can think of partners connecting to your company, suppliers, right? So all of these obviously use the internet. The World Wide Web, or the internet, is an open source, open framework. The internet and extranet are closed, somewhat artificially closed based on what's needed to be done by the company and based on the use. Now, in e-business, and the Metcalfe's law applies, right? It's an explanation of what's really going on. Basically, Metcalfe says that the value of the network is directly proportional to the number of servers, nodes, and essentially users in the network that are connected together. So obviously, when you have more people connected, more computers connected, more data warehouses connected, you have greater value that you can provide in the e-business world. And we've seen that, right? We've seen that in the applications that we currently use on an everyday basis. You know, you've got B2B, B2C, C2C applications, such as all the applications that connect our supply chains together. You've got messaging applications. You've got encryption and security-based applications. You've got also publishing. There's publishing protocols, whether it be audio, video, or a web page that gets rendered, you know, etc. And then you have the actual information, what I call the information highway, which is, you know, everything that connects things together. And you have a lot of things holding all of this up, right? Some of them are very well defined. Some of them have some work to do. For example, what's the public policy of sharing information? How much can we share? What is the legal ramifications, particularly when we're doing global business? What are the legal laws in the countries that are involved? How about privacy issues? Um, they are definitely not solved for, right, in many of these use cases. On the framework side or on the infrastructure side, you've got technology standards, you've got communication protocols, and you've got security technologies that have been evolving and pretty much evolve on a daily basis, given the threats of viruses, and other, um, issues around keeping our transactions secure that keep popping up. Essentially, you've got a real complicated set of inner workings in this thing, what I call the e-business framework, right? And obviously, there's a ton of opportunity in to play as users, as providers, as innovators, right? And you see the high tech industry proliferating because there's so much work to be done in each of these areas. And companies that are in the forefront, like Microsoft, Amazon, others, are really doing pretty well for their shareholders. You've got lots of things that are tricky in this area, right? As an example, taxation. When you conduct commerce, there is this law of the land we call sales tax that has been with us for a very long time. And sales tax is absolutely a critical part of commerce because it is the way companies survive in this framework. Not companies, but states survive because a lot of the revenue that goes to the state that helps the state function is from sales tax revenue. But how do you implement sales tax when you're on these high tech platforms, right? Sales tax in the US are generally at the state level, as I mentioned, but the location of the purchase may not be very clear when you're coming at it from the internet. And the federal government is not getting involved with taxation for sales. So companies have had to deal with this. E-commerce websites have to deal with this and adapt over the years. And the laws keep changing, and they are not very often mature to handle e-business and the nuances. Um, we have laws to protect individual privacy of sales and of commerce transaction. You've got antitrust laws. You've got a lot of influence um, on internet growth that has not fully been worked out, but it's getting better and better as days and years go by. So it's real easy to see how we keep evolving, right? Um, we have so far that we've come in this journey from originating at the browser level and now having wireless applications um, ubiquitous, right? We can connect to our Amazon account from our iPad or iPhone, what have you. In fact, some of the things you can automate now of ordering and have those RFIDs connected directly to your Amazon account. So when you're out of something in the refrigerator, you've got technology coming up that helps you place automatic orders when you're running low on supplies. Certainly, that technology was used in the commercial setting, but now it's being available increasingly to everyday, homeowners. Um, Before the internet, we used to have a very safe way of communicating between trading partners. For example, B2B customers used to set up an electronic data interchange, which was an agreed to protocol proprietary between two or more trading partners. And they agreed on the standards and they agreed on the business terms and they conducted selling essentially or transactions. This obviously is not a scalable model when you go to the World Wide Web and the use of the internet to conduct commerce at the B2C level. meaning business to consumers. You can't possibly set up a separate EDI type framework with each consumer. The consumers needed um, a more standard way of technology to communicate so that they can complete e-business transactions. For example, XML is a markup language that is a defined standard and can communicate across multiple applications on the web. And it works by way of tags. We're not going to have an XML lecture in this class, but if you're really, I'd encourage you to um, do some home study on how markup languages such as XML function. You can easily Google it or pick up a book, and you'll get a real deeper appreciation of what XML is all about. But it looks something like this, right? You've got a standard set of tagging and scripting that is accessible, and anyone can code this up and write. In fact, you have code generators. Most of the XML is generated automatically and then can be modified. Um, so it is the de facto standard of communicating between private and public networks that use the internet. Um, but it's amazing how much content is out there. You've got text messages, Word documents, PowerPoint documents, video, audio files, full featured DVD files, HD files now, right? And this is an example of how much storage these things take up. You know, an HD movie can easily take up, I think, 15 GBs now, right? This slide is a little dated with a full DVD being on the upper end, but you've got lots of different um, content types that can be traded essentially over the internet, right? And the increased broadband and Wi-Fi capabilities, now 5G is coming, will enable the further proliferation of these file sizes. You might have seen and even used digital signatures. Um, you can now write contracts all over the internet and actually sign it and authenticate it uh, and have it hold in the court of law with electronic or a digital signature. There's technology that secures um, digital authorization or sign-offs on key deliverables. So companies are starting to use this increasingly. Um, and as in all of these changing methodologies or new ways of doing work, uh, Porter's competitive forces model remains intact. You might have learned this from other management classes, but it is easy for a business to look at and they should look at their e-business suite or e-business capability with a strategic framework in mind. So Porter's forces say, hey, you've got opportunities and threats, and you've got influencing that you can do to adjust. Uh, so, for example, you can look at your competitors. You can look at the products that you offer relative to other providers of a similar stature. You can look at your customer segmentation. You can look at what is the threat of entry and the demarcation of how people enter in this market. And you can look at their supplier model. Is your supplier model diversified? Is it controlled? Is it how much control do you want to exercise? And you can use technology, business technology, to firm these or shore these areas of the business up. So, for example, of potential opportunities for existing company may be procuring your suppliers with greater diversification, like I just mentioned, right? You can talk about market expansion. You can look into additional distribution channels. You may have threats to your business model, for example, by price or by the number of competitors. Um, and you know, sometimes depending on what you're selling, do you have a high touch sales model, right? For example, an automobile might require a high touch than, say, buying, a pair of shoes or buying, a hat. Um, so that might, because you're losing the in-person nature of the sale, you might evaluate how your sales model should change, or even how your product mix should change. And because the internet makes it easier for customers to shop, customers have a very large advantage. They just point and click and figure out uh, how much um, of a discount or how much of a better value they might get from another supplier. They can do that just by sitting in their living room couch with their laptop. So customers increase their bargaining power, and internet reduces the customers willing to switch costs and do the trade-offs as a result. You've got a lot of changes that this industry has gone through after the dot-com meltdown, right? Dot-com meltdown in, around the year 2000, we had a lot of uh, changes that um, were introduced in our commerce framework. For example, the taxation stuff, the fact that brick stores were becoming a thing of the past in many ways. Many companies closed down, um, and and so on. So lots of changes that have continued to evolve since the year 2000 in the space. If buyers and sellers are fragmented, and are in fragmented markets, inter intermediaries that are independent are more likely to succeed, right? That's just a standard way the business framework works. Um, and this is really more evident in your combining when you're looking at the B2B model, right? The business to business commerce model versus the B2C model. If sellers are concentrated, on the other hand, sellers are likely to dominate. If buyers are concentrated, buyers are likely to dominate. And then reverse auctions or suppliers that bid online in real time for a customer contract. They lower their prices to outbid their competitors. Can you think of an example as we're talking about this, right? I know you all can. I'm going to give you a second. And you can certainly pause if you want to challenge yourself. This would be a good time to pause the video and think about it and then start. But I'm thinking of the airline industry, right? The airline industry is really good in uh, this sort of arrangement, right? Um, you'll get a price to go from here to Los Angeles, from New York to Los Angeles, um, and you will essentially have prices from all of the airlines, and they're essentially bidding on your business, right? And this is pre-COVID. Of course, after COVID, certain things have definitely changed in the airline industry. But years gone by, you've got the best prices on airlines because they're bidding for your business to go from one starting point to a destination point. Well, that's what the buyers benefit from, but sellers also have benefit, right? The seller benefits 24 access to customers, right? People can buy your product at any time. You no longer have to keep the brick and mortar store open. Obviously, significant cost savings to sell and transact through the online channel. Lots of opportunities for multimedia marketing, right? And ways to reach new markets that you just couldn't have if you had a store in Stamford, Connecticut, or in Manhattan. How would you reach other places? Now, this channel makes that problem literally go away. And you have new distribution channels, and of course, you have global reach now, right? So a lot of great names that have really built empires. Amazon, Netflix, Dell, Lands' End, Staples, Tesco, all of these are examples, right? Uh, Amazon's the greatest and the biggest and the baddest example of this, right? Um, it started as a book company and ended up as the most popular shopping network, not only the most popular shopping network, but the most popular technology provider with their cloud services and so many other businesses that they're in. Netflix completely destroyed the video market by offering video streaming services that were secure and offered ways for filmmakers to continue making money and so on, right? Blockbuster could have had this market. They just did not change in time and went out of business. Uh, Dell, perfect, made to order, right? Custom order PCs to your needs. And they would build each computer based on everybody's needs. They had a great supply chain set up to get advantage of the early internet and increase focused on business customers, and they really took off after that. Land's End used to be a traditional catalog seller, then was acquired by Sears, but amazing online e-business capability, right? Staples is another store. Brick and mortar, nice hybrid. You can order anything online. I guess Staples and Office Depot are the two big suppliers of almost all office supplies to almost every company in the US. So they made both the brick and online work together. Another example of a supermarket in England. I mean, the examples go on and on. We can keep talking about how companies have launched and changed directions successfully. Obviously, for every good example, there's probably 10 or so bad examples where companies didn't change on time and struggled and even ultimately went out of business. Sears is a very good example. Kmart, Sears, and so on, right? eBay pioneered electronic auctions using the technology, right? Um, very soon they became the premier auctioneer, online auctioneer, and started to offer electronic payment services like no other, PayPal as an example. Google formed in a university environment not too long ago, if you look at the timeline, but is the world leader now in advertising revenues and has amazing partnerships with countries and nations. The de facto search engine, the de facto, they provide many products and um, services that are just challenge the industry to move forward. Facebook, again, originated in a university environment for a very myopic use, but then started to create this buzz around social networking. They sort of started the social networking um, um, paradigm. If you haven't seen the Social Network movie, which is a dramatization of how Facebook started by Mark Zuckerberg and others, a great movie to watch. Probably you can get it on Netflix, interestingly enough. So what makes a good website, right, for consumers? Well, it's all the C's, the 6 C's. Context. Can people get to things easily? Aesthetically pleasing? Can they have the right information based on what they're looking for? So some of it you have to anticipate what they're looking for if they're on a certain page. Some of it you have to wait for the user's input, right? And start to navigate based on what you know about the user, their activity on the user. What are the commerce capabilities? Do you have all the secure tools to actually conduct commerce? Um, can you build a community around your products, around your internet store? Ways that a site utilizes user-to-user communication to enable feelings of membership and shared common interests, right? Which means, can we see product reviews? Can we see what you connect people to each other? You start to build stickiness on the site when you can do that. Connection is the extent to which the site is linked to other sites, and customizations. Can we offer personalization? Can we tailor our site to the preferences of our users? If you get these items covered and continue to improve on them, you're likely to get very happy users and users that will not only purchase from your site, but come back over and over. I love shopping on Amazon. It seems to know exactly what I want, what my preferences are. Pretty easy to order, knows where I left off, knows what I'm looking for, and just an amazing experience. So I keep going to Amazon, much like many of you, I'm sure. What makes a good social media platform for B2C, especially. It's a capability that you can get your brand out, you can support sales, you can leverage the information that's coming from your product development groups and share that with your site, with your users. Um, determine, let people map up their goals to your business strategy. Try to connect people essentially in a way that meets their goals while you're fulfilling your business strategy. And also, people want to feel secure. If they know that they're secure, they're trusted, they're likely to come back to your social media platform. So, that is a little bit about e-business. I hope this video um, class was informational. There's a lot of information around this topic, around how e-business systems have evolved, where they're going. I definitely encourage everyone to take a pause and uh, if you're ever curious about certain aspects of e-business, stop and find out. Stop and find out. I know a few years ago, as I was I was very interested on the security protocols. So I learned the different commerce security protocols. I think it was something where I was trying to create my own online store and I wanted to learn. But there was a lot of information that was available. Some of the providers provide the information. There's public domain information. There's a lot of resources. So I encourage everybody to not stay in the dark about any topic around e-business. Look it up, call the right people, call a partner, um, and get to the bottom of your curiosity. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.